Good morning and welcome to our webinar. This is Patrick at Qdabra. Quick show of hands, can everyone hear me okay? We'll get the show on the road here. We have a quick 20-minute webinar for you this morning, and thanks Evan for letting me know that my audio is coming through. This is a couple weeks in coming. We've been trying to get this webinar done, and we've had some challenges with resources into the summer and getting good repros, and so we really appreciate your patience. First, before we get started, I'd like to quickly talk about an announcement that we made on Monday, let's see if I can switch to that screen here again. So we learned last week that Microsoft was removing the sandbox code service effective August 28th, and you may have seen this Q alert from us. And so basically what this means, for most of you, it's not a big deal. But for anybody who's using the sandbox in 365, and that's specific to SharePoint Online, then you will need to move to Forms Viewer or to the info path filler. And we talk about that in our Q alert. If you take a look back here on our blog, we actually talked about these two options. We are here to help you with that. We have an app. We've been preparing for this event for over 2 years, and we knew it would happen eventually. And we do have the app allows you to read and write InfoPath forms. It basically functions as the InfoPath form services, but you don't have to worry about Microsoft pulling the rug out from under you because it's an app that doesn't require any sandbox. It's just something that you can install on your SharePoint Online site, and you point your library at it, and then it opens up the form. It actually has a couple new features that InfoPath didn't have using QRules. QRules is a common library that we included. It is sandbox, and that's why we're telling all of our QRules customers to consider moving to it if they have 365 forms. So anyway, just a quick call out, shout out. If that makes any sense whatever to you, please contact us, and that's just support@qdabra.com. So the purpose of this webinar today is to talk about migration again. We've done 2 webinars this summer on migration. In this third one, we want to address one of the most common problems that we have with migration, and that is the duplicate columns. So when you're migrating content types, and we'll show you an example, we're going to do 2 demos in this quick 20-minute webinar. We're going to show you the issue when we create a new content type and publish it to a library. We're going to talk about it. We're going to show you how to fix the forms after the fact, and we'll talk a little bit about why this happens. And so I think that without any further ado, let's do a quick demo. And we've got my support lead from Manila on the call, Don Lamotte, and I'm going to give Don control, and he's going to quickly walk through and show you how this happens. It's going to be about a 3 or 4 minute demo, hopefully, and then we'll switch back and talk about it. So Don, you should have the presenter baton at this point. Can you hear us, Don? There you go.
Yep.
You're on.
Hello everyone and good morning. So I'm going to demo this duplicate issue for you today, and I'm going to open up this library. Now this library has 4 columns promoted, and it's using the Qdabra expense report, and we have another same form that we will publish as a content type. So as you can see right now, this library only has 4 columns promoted, which I'll be showing here on the library settings. We have the name, expense code, purpose, and total. Now what we're going to do next is publish this content type to the SharePoint site as a content type. I'm just going to update the one that I've already uploaded here. And here you can already see that we're reusing the content types, but if we click this one, it's selecting this field and publishing it as a content type to the library. Now, what's going to happen is that if you publish this to the SharePoint site and you select this as a content type, it's going to create those new columns there, and it's the one causing those duplicates.
Yeah, so this is really important for people to understand. So by default, when you're publishing a form as a content type to a new library, InfoPath Publishing Wizard basically assumes to only create new columns. And this is one of the crux of the issue, right, is that it's going to automatically create all of these columns for you. And some of you may already be thinking, well, why not just change it? Exactly. You can change it during the publish process using that wizard, the dialog screen that Don was just showing. But a lot of people forget to do that, and that's why we want to talk about how to fix it up after the fact as well. Don?
Okay. Now, back to the library settings, we should first enable the content type here at the advanced settings. So let's just wait for it and click on Allow Management of Content Types and click OK. Okay, now we're back to the library settings, and next we're going to select the content type we've just published. And let's go down for a bit and select this one. Let's add and click OK. Where's my OK button? It's right here. Okay, now that it's promoting those fields, so it should take just a while. Now you can see here, now we have those duplicates here. But if we go back to the library, you won't see that first. You just see the first columns previously. Now we're going to submit the form, or a form using the form which I've published via a regular publish, and let's just create a quick one. At Qdabra.com.
Okay, so anyone have any questions? Yeah, go ahead and submit it, Don. I'm just going to talk over while you're submitting that. And so everyone understands this issue. I want to, while Don's submitting the form, I want to just ask everyone if you have any questions. We're going to take a quick question and answer now, and then we're going to talk about how to fix this issue in a second. We're also going to talk about why it occurs a little bit more in depth. So if anyone has questions, great time to pop up here while Don's submitting these. Don?
So next is I'm going to open up the other form, which is the content type.
Okay, so what are you showing right now? Sorry, I'm confused.
So the previous one was the one from the library, or the one published regularly, and this one right now is the content type.
Okay.
I should have changed the background.
You're basically going to show that there's two different columns with data, right?
Right. And let's say that this is a form of the retreat.
And so while you're doing that, Maroon's got a question. Thanks, Maroon. If Sandbox is gone, then InfoPath services will stop. No, actually. Thank you for clarifying. InfoPath Form Services will continue. Microsoft's service level agreement for services, and that includes InfoPath Form Services, is, I believe it's 6 months, or maybe it's 12 months. But they will warn you 6 or 12 months ahead of time that they're removing a service. So we expect the InfoPath Form Services to exist at least through probably this time in 2017. My hunch is that they're going to announce that they're removing the service in January, and that means they'll have another year to move to an app like Forms Viewer or something like Nintex if you want to do that. The benefit of Forms Viewer of our app is that there's very minimal migration. It takes the existing format and you don't have to do much work, and the app is free for most scenarios. If you need support, of course, we like you to give us a little bit of support, but support tickets or whatever you want to call them. So Don, you just showed that you've got two different columns. Do you want to promote those columns so we can see those in the view?
Yeah. Right now, you might be wondering, hey, where did my data go, or the contents of the form I just submitted? So we can promote those fields here at the library settings, and you would need to go to the views and click all documents and select the columns from the
let's just show that we've got the two columns in there, because that's what we really wanted to show, right? Was we've got these two columns for name. Yeah. And do we see those two columns? Yeah, we see three columns, but where's the duplication? Did we get that?
Yeah, we have that.
Yes, I can see purpose selected up above, and I can see purpose down below. I see name up above. I see name down below. Okay, so that's the duplication. Everyone's familiar with that, right? Okay, so now let's take a quick, thanks Don, we're going to do another demo in just a second, so don't lose that channel here. I'm going to switch back to my screen because I want to talk a little bit about why this happens. So here's the form, the expense report form Don mentioned, 2007, InfoPath. Microsoft created this expense report. We use this for a lot of our demos. If you go to File, and hopefully you can see my screen, maybe not, hold on. Let's see here. I guess you are seeing my screen. Great. Okay, so you go to File, and underneath File Form Options, Publish, we have an option here to export the source files. And so what I've done here is I've exported these source files because I want to show you what is happening behind the scenes of this form. And specifically, I've actually exported the source files. When you export the source files, you're going to see something like this. You're going to have all of the constituent files for that form template are going to be exported into a folder. And here I've just named the folder form. And you can see that the manifest of XS, that's what we want to look at. That's the actual manifest for the entire solution. That includes the description of what it's doing. So I've just opened this in Notepad++, and I just searched for list properties. So the manifest is an XML document, and it describes how the template is built. And one of the items in it is the list properties, and this describes those four columns that you see that Don is using for his promoted properties. If we go into the form and we look at the promoted properties, we'll also see those four columns, right? If we go to File, Form Options, and promoted properties, you'll see those are the four columns we're talking about: name, expense code, purpose, and total, right? So these four properties exist here, and you can see if we scroll over, we should see the name of them as well. And you can see if I do this, the column name, the column ID actually, let's see, these are the field extensions, right? So these are basically the columns that they're mapping it to. So it's using a column name is the GUID, and the column ID is the GUID. So what happens is when you publish this to a new site, those columns don't exist. So it recreates them. In addition, if you're publishing it as a new content type, it's going to create new columns as well at that time. It's not going to reuse the site columns for the old content type, because that doesn't make any sense, right? So this is under the covers kind of what's happening and why we have this issue. Any questions on that? I want to switch back to my slides quickly, and we're going to talk about how to solve this problem. So once again, this is a very frequent issue. It's one of the most frequent issues. I cannot believe that we've spent 4 or 5 years doing webinars and we've never talked about this. And this, obviously this webinar today is a little bit rough, but we wanted to at least talk to you about what's happening and how to fix it. So it's a frequent issue. Basically, I've described why it's happening. The way to fix this is, and this does happen for normal form libraries too, when you publish them from one site to another. For example, from dev to production, which is a very good best practice. We talked about this in our previous webinar. So what you could do is you could go into the manifest and you could set those new IDs equal to your new site. But that's a lot of work, and it's not really worth the trouble. So I would say don't worry about it until after the fact. And then after the fact, you can fix it, and that's what we're going to talk about next. For content types, like we just mentioned, during that publishing process, you can actually stop and say, wait a minute, this is when I'm supposed to actually set it to those previous site columns so I don't get duplicates, right? So when you're publishing the content types, there's that screen in the dialog that says, okay, where do you want to map your promoted properties? And the default is new site columns. So if you just stop there and realize I need to map it to the previous ones, then you won't have this issue. But most people don't do that. So let's talk about how to fix this up. In fact, I'm going to switch back to Don. He's going to show you a technique. But first, let's just quickly talk about what we're going to do. It's important that you stop the workflows because you're going to have to probably modify the XML forms that exist. Now, if you've got documents that you want to remap to the new site columns, in other words, we're going to take all that existing content and we're going to remap it. That makes sense if it's the same content type. Obviously, if it's a different content type, you don't want to do this, but you're going to want to turn off the workflows anyway as a first step. Next, if you can, we're going to look at the relink view in a second. Let's just take a quick look at the relink view. These form libraries, they all have a special view for relinking them, and it works great if it's a form library. So if I can get back there. So here's our form library, right, with this sample here, and these duplicate columns. You can see we've got, this is the previous demo we did when we were testing it. So we've got the duplicate columns here. If we go to Files, you'll see that there's a command to, where is it here? I always mess up where I'm going. You can tell we've got a live demo here. Okay, so it's underneath here. It's underneath the views. You have to switch to, I believe it is relink documents. So if we go to the relink documents view, then you'll see that we can't relink these because we have two different content types. Now it's going to show us which content type is mapped to which one. You can see here on the right, we've got webinar test.xsn, that's one content type, and we've also got the default form content type for this library. So the library was a normal form library. We changed it to a content type. The previous form that was in there became this forms template XSN. The new content type is the one on top. And you can see that it's in a different location. But under the covers, all of the normal form libraries are using content types too. It's just that the template exists there at the form level. So we could go in here and we could say, hey, let's relink these guys to the new content type. But that's not going to work because this is a content type library. The relink command doesn't work. So Don is going to quickly show you what to do when you've got a library with content types and you need to relink these forms because you want the forms to have the right columns. So Don, back to you for another quick demo, hopefully.
Okay, so we're back here. Now you can see that I've promoted the other fields. So what we're going to do here is we're going to grab the XMLs and save them to a local folder. I'm just going to cut it and save it here. Now, while that is copying over there, I'm going to open up the Qdabra's Modify Info Pack PI tool. Now, this tool is used for relinking or fixing up the processing info of your form.
And while you're doing that, Don, I'll just add a few more comments to this. So this tool is available for you as part of this webinar package today. We usually charge for it. We'll be including it in the webinar package if you fill out the survey. Thanks for being here. And it is on our web store as well. You can go to qdabra.com underneath web store, and you can find it. The nice thing about the tool is, number one, when you have thousands and thousands of forms, and you need to relink them, it's nice because it doesn't batch. It does it on the whole folder, so he's going to run it on this folder. There's only 2 forms in the folder, but it will run on all of them to fix up the PI. And you have to type in the PI, so you have to know what the processing instruction is for the info path form. That's just going to be the location of the template.xsn. So you can go into the relink view to get that if you want. And I don't know, John, if you want to show them that. But so then what you're going to do is you're going to actually upload the forms afterwards to the form library. Now, once again, why are we doing the relink? We're doing the relink because you've got this duplicate columns and you've got all these forms that you want to show up with the new columns, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to rebind them, essentially, to this new content type. And then we're going to upload them, and by uploading them, we have the promote properties extracted again. So Don, let's see, where are you again now? Did you upload them yet?
No,
you're just getting the URL first, okay? And that's going to then essentially map all that data to those new columns. And so we'll see then in the view that those old forms now are mapping their data correctly to those new columns because we've rebound them. So while Don's doing this and showing you this technique, once again, the Modify PI tool, it works with content types and it works in batch mode on a folder, so it's very fast. You can't relink forms with the content type in SharePoint. It doesn't allow you to because the relink command assumes a normal form library. It assumes that you're relinking everything to the form library that you're in. When you have multiple content types, it doesn't know which one to relink it to. So that's why the Modify PI tool is needed in this case. Questions on that? Don's about ready to run this tool. Don? Any luck?
it still says different PI prefixes.
Yeah, this working earlier today. Hey, it wouldn't be a demo if we didn't screw it up somehow. Okay, let's show them. So you want to show them the old site where it worked, or do you want to try to get to work?
Unfortunately, I wasn't able to try it.
You got the right folder in there and everything?
Yeah, I do have the right URL to the...
Okay, and if you click OK, so what's happening here? So it's basically saying... Okay, so we've got a warning here. We got to figure that out. We'll put a little note and addendum in the package that we send out. I'm going to switch back to my screen. I know we've only got a few minutes left here. Let's see here. I need to switch back. So when it works, what's going to happen is you're going to upload those forms, then you turn the workflows back on, and the data will then show up in those columns, those new columns. So that's the workaround. And the reason why we're emphasizing the workaround is that most people have this problem, and they think, well, you know, I don't want this to happen. It's not worth trying to fix it before it happens in some cases because A, it's really complex to hack the manifest. B, the wizard that you have to use to remap the site columns is really a pain to use as well. So my recommendation is don't worry about it. Just do it. You're going to get duplicate columns. You can use this technique to fix them up. In other words, you're going to relink the documents that you want to point to the, you know, the columns, to the new columns. Now, questions on this technique? We have Q&A slide. So Chris has got a question. What if you don't want or can't upload the old data? We just want to move forward with new forms and old columns. Yeah, so if you're a central admin, we are including a PowerShell script that will do it in place. And we'll also put instructions in the webinar package. But most people aren't central admins. They can't run the PowerShell script. But if you are, that would be one solution to that. And we use that solution for a lot of our customers. So hopefully that answers your question. So let me just understand. I hope I answered your question. Maybe I didn't, but if I didn't, please ping me again here in the question and answer area. So we once again are here to help you with any kind of 365 forms you have. We'll do a forms here demo probably in next week's webinar. We'll show you 1.2. We have support for rich text now. We have support for People Picker. The performance of Forms Viewer is really exceptional compared to InfoPath Form Services. So there's lots of reasons to move to it. Most of all probably because we're supporting it and we're putting it out in GitHub and we're making it open source so people can use it, you know, as long as they want and not have to worry about something changing. So if you have questions on your forms, your forms on 365, you're worried about the sandbox stuff, first verify that they do have code in them. That's on the form options. You can look at whether it's got code in it. It'll tell you there. If it does and you're worried about that, please feel free to contact us. Maroon, it should just be Qdabra for the GitHub handle, but it's quite possible that we don't have it out yet. So we're hoping to get that out at the end of August for version 1.2, which will be going live. We have, of course, the service that we publish to the US and the UK and Australia. But for those of you who want to install the service yourself, we have some instructions on how to do that. And it's just the app, so you can use the public service with just installing the app, so it's pretty simple. So Chris, next question, will this affect schema of existing data if you now use the new content type? Right, so you don't want to do the relink if the schema has changed. In that case, what you need to do is you need to go in and manually modify the manifest for the previous version to point to those correct column IDs, right? And then you, of course, publish that content type again. And then you have to essentially trigger the promotion to happen. And how do you do that? So there is a trick here. When you're trying to trigger the form to re-export or re-promote those properties, those fields, so you've gone into your manifest for your old content type and you've tweaked the column IDs to match the column IDs for the new one, or vice versa. Maybe you went into the new one and tweaked the column IDs. You've published it out there. And then what you need to do is you need to trigger that property promotion for those old forms. How do you do that? Well, there's a trick here, and that is that in Windows Explorer, you don't actually have to download and upload the forms. All you have to do is just copy them out of the form. And for some reason, when you copy using Windows Explorer, it triggers SharePoint to go in and it re-extract those promote properties. So that's a really cool trick that Jimmy Risch, our MVP in Japan, figured out, and it will help you in that scenario. Hopefully I answered your question. Any other questions before we sign off for today? We'll get the webinar up. We'll get the package out. The survey is really quick, so appreciate your feedback, and we'll be here hopefully next week again to talk about Forms Viewer. Have a great day.